The goal of this podcast is to help you break in and thrive in advertising. And we do that every single week by sharing the stories and advice of those rocking it on the other side. Today's guest is Sandy Greenberg, co-founder of the independent ad agency Terri and Sandy. Towards the end of this intro, I'll talk about how she created one of my favorite ad taglines of all time. So keep listening. But Sandy is a copywriter by trade, and today she serves as a business leader, overseeing strategy, creative, and operations at her agency. They're based in New York. They're independent. She co-founded it with her longtime creative partner, Terri. So Sandy is experienced advertising professional. She spent decades in holding company world before breaking out to start her own thing. She's passionate about mentorship, workplace culture, and ensuring her agency provides an alternative to traditional big agency structures, which we get into the differences this episode. So they're more nimble, client-focused, and employee-friendly agency model. She'll talk about the work that they're doing now and some of the amazing stuff she's done in the past, including, which I promised I would say at the beginning of this, how she worked on the iconic Milk's favorite cookie tagline and campaign for Oreo. It transformed the brand's perception and has remained on the packaging for over a decade. Love that stuff. So she'll talk about the strategy in that. Terri and Sandy, it's a great episode. Now on with the show. This is the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. And as usual, I'm your accomplice, Gino Schellenberger. Kick it, Mikey. All right. Sandy Greenberg, welcome to the Breaking and Entering Advertising Podcast. How are you doing today?
Gino, I'm doing great, and I'm super happy to see you.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for taking the time. This is going to be a lot of fun. Where are you calling in from, Sandy?
22nd and 2nd, Manhattan.
Very nice. Very nice. I don't think we're too far. I'm still learning the geography as I moved here in September from Chicago, but it's awesome.
Interesting.
Yeah. So we're here to talk about you, though, Sandy. All your experience, all your advice for the next generation. I want to learn more about the agency, Terri and Sandy. It's been on my radar. You've been on the radar for so long, and since I started advertising, Terri and Sandy has been popping up for campaigns, for interesting agency brand activations, which we'll talk about, I'm sure, later. But before we get into all of that, Sandy, do you want to tell us a little bit about you as a human outside of advertising? What makes you you?
Well, what makes me me is I am a single mom. I have a daughter who's 20, who's awesome. And, sometimes she is 40 or 50 years old in wisdom, and sometimes she is 10, which is how you expect a 20-year-old. So I love her, and I love seeing her grow and, becoming a more engaging person. And so my life is about my friends, who are my family, and my kid.
And is your kid leaning into the advertising path as well?
Sadly, no.
Sadly, no. And that's an interesting take. So you do like this industry. You would like to see her be an art director, copywriter, or an account manager, strategist of some sort, but that's okay, I'm assuming.
Well, I especially since I own my own business. If I didn't own my own business, I'd probably tell her to stay clear. But since I do own my own business, it would be really wonderful if, for instance, she wanted to take it over.
Totally. Well, 20 is young. You never know. So we will get into then now the agency. So you said you own the agency. It's got your name on it. So yes. Give us the rundown. I've seen it for so long. Tell us, in your perspective, what is the brand of Terri and Sandy first and foremost?
Yeah, Terri and Sandy was born in reaction to 30 years in the holding company world, right? So Terri and I met at Darcy Macy's, Benton & Bowles in St. Louis, DMB&B, moved to DMB&B New York, then went to J. Walter Thompson, and then spent 15 years at FCB. So I think that, and we were at FCB, And for years, clients and friends always said, you really should start your own business. You are so, because we were very close to clients and we had long-term client relationships, but we didn't think we were entrepreneurial. And we were just a phrase I hadn't heard before, which is called intrapreneurial, which is when we had a group at FCB, our group would grow and grow and grow because all of our clients would come back.
Mm-hmm.
And so we really had our own agency inside an agency. So, but, we really got to the point where we couldn't take it anymore. So back then, only 3% of women were creative directors, right? 3%. So, I mean, it's gotten a lot better through the years. But that affected us. I think that morale was bad in the holding company world. I think it's gotten worse. And, it was very hard to control things. We would have a very strong point of view about the way to do things, but you would then have, of course, the president of New York, the president of North America, the CEO of North America, the global CEO, then you'd have the holding company and the holding company. So it's like a simple thing. Like I'd like to give a writer in my group a raise would just, be stopped at, let's say, Interpublic.
Right. So many layers.
So many layers. And it got to the point where we weren't proud of how we were servicing our clients and where we felt that we couldn't have the control that we wanted to. So we decided we would leave. And when we did leave, we didn't have a 5-year plan or a business plan, all the things you're supposed to have. We didn't. We left. Basically started on Terri's dining room table. Terri, my partner creative partner, she's the art director, I'm the writer, of 40 years or so. We decided, and we worked out of her dining room table, and we really set out to create an alternative. I would call it the antidote to the big agency world,
Mm-hmm.
where you can be entrepreneurial, where you don't have to stay within the lines of your job, where it's your job to make things happen. And also where we really care about people. And, I often say it's advertising. Like, this isn't genuinely a family, right? There's all kinds of ugly things going on in business. So we can only go so far in making people happy, but at least it's our intent, and at least we do care. And I'm sure that we don't do everything perfect, but it's nice to have a company where you do care about the people.
I like that you acknowledge it too. Like, you're not trying too hard. You know that this is still business. This is work for people, but at least you acknowledge that, and you're trying your best to show that you care and that you're helping them out. So what are some of those ways, I guess, across the years, some of those initiatives that you're super proud of that gives back to the employees, that show that you care, you'll go the extra mile when needed?
One basic way is more financial, which is that we have profit sharing. So every single person's in profit sharing. So if we do well, you do well, which is nice, over the course of a career at our place. And we also have very long-term retention, so people can sock away quite a bit of money. That's separate from like a 401k. That's just something that most people don't have.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, compensation probably is like the number one reason why people are unhappy. Like, if you want to make people happy, pay them more or offer opportunities for them to get paid more. And a lot of these problems might be fixed. But is there anything else beyond that you've noticed? Maybe you disagree with what I just said?
No, I couldn't agree more. But I think here's another one. I think people care hugely about whether you care about their career, right? I think that really matters, that people feel they have mentors. We have a mentorship program. Everyone has a mentor to go out to coffee with and talk about like what's going on. And so you have a voice, and wow, I've done these 2 campaigns for blank and they're really serious. I'd love to do something funny, put me on something funny. And, so we tell people very directly, if you're a senior, let's say you're a senior art director, what you need to do to get to be ACD, very directly. We're having those talks. We actually do evaluations, so it's not just bullshit.
It's hard to do. Like, when people are listening, I just want to put some context here. When people listening might say, well, that sounds pretty normal. Like, every agency should be doing that. But as a small business owner now, I care deeply about growing the business. And I forget that we need to actually care about our employees even extra and monitor and see and check in with them. I just care about the revenue right now because we're just starting up. So I can forget some of those times of the development, checking in. So that's great. How did you learn to balance that out, like with the business?
It's really, really hard, Gino. I can't hide that. But I think Terry and I have always been on the sort of more human side of the business. Terry used to, I'm not kidding you. She sends people cards for anniversaries, for weddings, for deaths in the family, for loss of a pet. Like she is the true, like, send a card for things, real cards. And now she's not here anymore. And I'm like, oh my God, I got to buy cards because I want to keep it up because it's very unusual. And I think it's really kind. And that's the littlest thing that we do, I think, to show that we do care.
But it
Um,
goes so far. The fact that you're doing that, you're making time out of your busy schedules to write a card, like that means the world to people. And the fact that you're doing that is incredible. Um, and
And
now,
also, I was
yeah,
going to
go
say,
ahead.
I think it's also about accessibility. I mean, I really do try to talk to people at all levels, especially if they pursue me, right? And we have lunches every Wednesday where we buy lunch, and I talk and I tell people stories, the great stories of the past of my career and things to try for, and some of my philosophies, let's say. And so it's accessibility. I think it's about accessibility. That's another thing we were talking about, versus in the holding company world. You can't be accessible when you have all these levels. It's very hard to find accessible people. So I try to be accessible. I find that still people don't always come see me because for whatever reason they're intimidated.
Mhm. And
Yeah.
then, but listening to the show, they'll know that that you are accessible. So that's
Yes. Yes, and I will tell them today, just
good.
because you've inspired me to.
I love that. I love that. So let's talk about the ads. Let's talk about the work.
Yep.
Across the years, I guess, are we allowed to talk about current clients right now, or famous work that you've done in the past? I just want to go into that because that's what people want to hear too.
Yeah, sure. So, when from our past, the account that got us our business is Oreo. When Terry and I were at FCB, we worked on Oreo for 15 years. We created the campaign Milk's Favorite Cookie, and that ran
You
for,
created that?
yeah,
Oh my
yeah,
gosh, that's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
incredible.
Yeah, at FCB, it was a time when Oreo was being very much assaulted for having trans fats and leading to childhood obesity, and people were holding back on cookies. And Oreo being the number one cookie, people were not going down the cookie aisle. So um, we were issued a challenge when I was at FCB by Daryl Brewster, who was a CEO, and Dick Kelstein was head of integrated marketing, and John Gingo, and it was like, we're going to take your money away if you don't find a way to solve this problem, because we're down money because people aren't eating cookies. And we're like, don't take our money away. So we were at FCB. It was Kraft was one of the biggest global accounts, and Oreo kept people employed. So we went, really hard at it. And I saw a show on CNN that was about children breaking bones at alarming rates. And I'm like, moms and dads want to get calcium into their kids, and Oreo's ritual is dunk it in milk. So our strategy became sort of imbue the brand with the wholesome halo of milk. And we did Milk's Favorite Cookie, which is still on the package today. Turned the business around like in 3 weeks.
Oh my goodness. Can you
Yeah,
talk about like that light bulb moment from
it was crazy. And when we called them, by the way, we said, we've got an idea. They're like, no, 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 we're just not going to spend, da, da, da. We're like, no, no, we have to come out. And, we worked on it for like 10 years. So that's like through three CEOs and probably 5 presidents. And
you outlasted all of them? That's
well, we had,
incredible.
I think if we hadn't at that point had some clout, we never would have gotten it through because they were writing it off, right? That, and but we just pushed, let's try this, let's try this, let's try this. And so they gave it a shot. The first thing we did was just cut up some old film and repositioned it all around milk, and it worked instantly. So they
That's
didn't
incredible.
away.
So the strategy was to associate Oreo with the healthy calcium from milk, and that was like what they did. You come up with that strategy, or was that given to you by a strategist team?
No, we came up with it.
And
And
then how did
yeah,
that idea of Milk's Favorite Cookie come
yeah,
together?
yeah. And it was very much like we tested when we first came up with it. We tested the way to do that like 6 ways. You're not going to go like protect your bones with an Oreo. That's overpromise, right? All
Hmm.
you're going to do is all we said was Oreo's always been about the dunk. Let's just lift the prominence of milk in the advertising. Be a tagline. The first tagline was Milk's Other Half. Then it became Milk's Favorite Cookie, and it worked.
Oh, yes, it did. Do you think it would work today? I feel like with like the almond milk stuff, I feel like milk is being attacked today. I don't know. Like I grew
Yeah.
up drinking a glass of milk at the dinner table, in my
I think
family
it
in the
would still,
Midwest.
I think it would still work because people will then make the connection if they drink almond milk or they drink lactate or they drink whatever the hell they drink. Yeah, I think
Hmm.
so.
Okay. Yeah,
Because
this is
Oreo
curious.
goes back so far with that association of being dunked in milk.
Oh my gosh, I can't wait to text my friend Nathan Dehaan. He's not even in advertising. He just always says that's his favorite tagline.
Really? Yay!
Always. Yeah.
I
And
we have.
that in America runs on Duncan. He loves to.
Oh, that's a great line.
Yeah. You didn't make that, did you?
No, wish I
Okay.
had.
What are some other Hall of Fame stuff that you've made in your career?
Well, I'm really happy right now with some fresh pet work that's coming out of the agency.
Love.
We have the fresh pet account. We've had it for 14 years. It's our longest standing client. 14 years. That's as old as we are. Um, we've got a campaign going. It's not dog food. It's food, and we're in our about eighth spot in the campaign. The last one is called My Boy Junior, and it's involves some guys that are like mafia. Have
Okay.
you? I can send you some stuff.
Okay. Yeah. Well, maybe we'll put it on the whiteboard,
Yeah, it's
our
been very
whiteboard news.
popular. This spot's very popular, um, really beloved. And I'm also very proud of a campaign that we've been doing for 8 years called Strands for Trans. Strands for Trans. So there was a guy, JP Gomez. He was a creative director at our place, and he and his partner own Barba grooming salon, a men's grooming salon. Actually, it's not men's. It used to be, but it isn't anymore. In Chelsea, and one of our people came up with this idea, noticing that there was a bunch of stuff being written about the prejudice against the trans community in salons. Going to get their hair cut, people felt attacked, humiliated, and sometimes thrown out. So we did this campaign we came up with this idea called Strands for Trans, where we launched the first registry of trans-friendly barbershops and salons. We started in America, but it now is all across the globe, and it's even in places where it's illegal to be gay. We won a Fast Company world changing idea for it. We actually kind of won four, but we won one that's the top award. For me personally, I get so much meaning from my job when we do something good. Also, the other part of that was so meaningful. My favorite things are when people in the agency unite on the behalf of something. So, like in that case, a couple people came up with Strands for Trans. We added a couple more people to blow it out, and then a couple more people. So there were probably like 8 people on it, and everybody was working together to make it so great. I love that. So I think Strands for Trans and Fresh Pet, we have a client called BJ's Wholesale Club that we do a lot of really great work for. And we launched a new campaign for Princess Cruises with Hannah Waddingham from Ted Lasso. That's out now too. So I'm really happy with the body of work coming out of the agency and our growth right now.
I love it. I love it. And also your return to office policy. We want to talk about that because just real quick, because we covered it on our whiteboard in late January of 2025. But can you give just a couple summary of what you
Our
guys
work,
did?
do you mean in terms of our work on this area?
Yeah.
Okay, so our policy is 2 days a week. Well, so we recently just launched this campaign with where well, let me go back.
Yeah, take
We
your time.
interview a lot of people, and the holding company situation is getting harder and harder for people to manage. Obviously, there's a validity to it. Clients hire holding companies, so it's a great business proposition. But it's been very hard for people that are there when you wake up on, one day you're working at J. Walter Thompson, and then you're Wonderman Thompson, and then you're VML, and then you're at Omnicom, but then Omnicom buys Intrapublic. It's like, what? I can't even keep track of who owns who anymore, and so you've got people whose lives are getting upended by all these mergers and acquisitions, and then also just feeling again like management's not accessible, that people don't care about them. And then WPP, when they issued this mandate a few weeks ago, that was 4 days a week, many people took out a petition and criticized it. So we looked at that, and honestly, the 4 days a week was really more of a metaphor for the overarching sense of loss of control that people are feeling in their lives. So we just decided that we would do something fun, and we created this character called Marionette, who is a marionette puppet. And, he wants to work for WPP because he wants to be a puppet. And
That's so funny.
he doesn't want to be free. He doesn't want to have flexible hours. He doesn't want to come up with his own ideas. He wants to be told what to do. So he really is desperate to go work for WPP and Mark Reed. And we really launched this very sort of integrated campaign. There were about, I was talking to you about loving it when people come together. There were probably like, oh, sorry, Gino, my
All
door.
good. No worries.
Where like 6 to 8 people, they were on puppet patrol for about 2 weeks when we came up with the idea, and then had to find the puppet, which wasn't the easiest thing. Believe it or not, we couldn't find a marionette in New York. I know that's weird. We came up with videos. We bought that outdoor board outside of WPP where Marion is hanging and says, 4 days a week, I'm your guy. And then it all drove to a landing page where our job openings, where we have our job openings. It is a recruitment campaign because we are looking for like 5 different roles right now. So we are trying to get the best talent, but it's also just a fun industry conversation to have. And
it reaffirms your values as well, larger
absolutely.
than just the recruiting of those open positions.
Yeah, I would say, Gino, it was a little unusual for us to take such an aggressive tone. We don't do that normally. We're kind of a friendly place. So it's the sort of most biting tone we've ever taken, but it came up and it was really funny. And so we decided to do it.
Yeah. And I think it's just kind of like fun. Like you're not calling out anybody like directly. You're not like trying to like get people to lose their job. Like it's not that malicious.
Right.
Like
No.
It's just a fun little poke, a fun little jab. And like, I don't think people should stress too much.
The people that worked on it were really serious. They really, like, if you ask Bryce Mathias, who's our head of social, who is running it all, like about what his goal from the campaign was, he wants WPP to change their mandate. He goes, I know they won't, but that's what he really feels that it's wrong for the people.
Well, if you believe in it,
yeah.
Then the work will come and, it'll make better work. So that's great that they're passionate about something.
Yeah.
And especially if there is that petition out there and so many of the internal employees are signing it. Yeah. So there's a real case.
That's what motivated it, actually.
Yeah.
Was the petition.
Yeah. Giving them a voice too. So love it. How did you break in, Sandy? What was the moment where you said to yourself, a young Sandy, I want to make ads for a living? And then how did you go and do that? And then the name of the show is Breaking Entering. So that's what we need to find out.
Yes. Well, let's talk about that. So I went to college. I went to Washington University, and I was an English major. I had no idea that there was a career called advertising, never heard of it, knew nothing. I thought I was going to be a journalist. I was an English major, and I didn't get an internship that I wanted for the summer in New York at a magazine. Wild. It's wild if I had gone into journalism. That industry is more disrupted, possibly, than ours. But what happened was there was a guy that went to college with me. His name is Johnny Bond. Do you know that name? Yeah, see?
I don't think I do.
Okay, so Kirschenbaum and Bond. It was an agency, you know, so I graduated. So this is in 81. Kirschenbaum Bond was probably it was the mischief of then. It was the hottest agency in the country. It was very irreverent, very edgy, very funny, very smart. Johnny Bond and I went to college together. He hadn't started Kirschenbaum and Bond yet, but he lived with my best friend from college. So every time I would call him, he'd talk to me about, he was in advertising. I'm like, what's advertising, you know? And so I read some books, the real basics, you know, from that era, Ogilvy on advertising, from the folks that brought you Pearl Harbor. And it was the weirdest thing. And I'm extremely grateful for it, which is that it just hit me. Like, I loved it. Like the minute it was strategy, actually. I think it was the strategy. I think it was the thinking, kind of the way we just talked about Milk's Favorite Cookie, where yes, it's a campaign and yes, it's a tagline, but it's an idea. It's a proposition. And I got into it right away, and I never expected that, you know, and kind of fell in love with it right from the beginning. And I've met so many people through the years in all different careers. Some people never find what they love, you know? So I sort of think, well, God, what if I hadn't been coincidentally speaking to Johnny? What would I be doing? And I really have no idea, but I'm really lucky, and I'm lucky that I hopped right on it. And yeah, listen, it's incredibly hard career, but I loved it. What I did next was bartended and waited tables for a year while I looked to break into advertising in St. Louis. St. Louis is a smaller market, so someone's got to like leave or die for you to get it. There's like, you know, one or two jobs.
Yeah.
Places they can get a job. So I was patient. I made a book. But years ago, there was a book like called How to Put Your Book Together and Get a Job in Advertising by Maxine Pietro. And I paid attention to that. And I finally got a job at Murray Hall Advertising in St. Louis, which was a little place that I did a lot of banks and malls. And the great thing I tell people about that job is I learned the basics. I learned how to record talent. I learned how to time. You know, I learned, and that stuff became incredibly valuable for me through the years because I did a ton of it. That's the other thing. It isn't work that today I would look back on and say I'm proud of it, but you know, it taught me the craft of advertising. And I've always been a huge lover of voices, music, and things. And so the more you do, the more you learn.
Right. So if you can go to a young Sandy who's just starting out in that agency, excuse me, what would you say? What advice, like what tangible skills or like what tangible advice would you tell her to invest in? Maybe don't work here, work there, start something sooner. What's the tangible stuff you wish you could tell yourself?
The most tangible stuff that I have is more in the area of determination, which is, you know, it's resilience. I believe that resilience is one of the most important things in advertising for a creative person. You know, people are going to kill your ideas 50 times a day. Nobody knows what that feels like outside the creative department, right? They're going to change your ideas. They're going to, you know, cut them up. They're going to kill the best lines. You have to keep coming back and keep coming back stronger. Some talent that we've had, very few people come back stronger. Most people, the next time you see the idea, it's weaker.
Mm-hmm.
Every now and then you meet a great talent that makes work stronger. The other quality is there's a guy named Claudio Lima who worked for us at FCB. And I think this is my most important story. He came to us and he said, I want to put an Oreo at the top of an elevator and the milk at the bottom. And I want the elevator to come down and dunk into the milk. And we're like, oh, that's a really great idea. Great, great, great. And he's like, yeah, but I want to do it. I'm like, well, yeah, well, let's do it. But it's like your creative director, your group creative director, you're swamped. The next time he came to us was probably a week later, and he's like, we went to the building. We can put a decal up for the day, so that when the Oreo comes down, it's going to dunk into the milk. It costs $450. Blah 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 blah, and we can do it on Thursday.
Love.
We're like, go. And that idea then was written up in the Wall Street Journal the next week. That idea recently, somebody who's a big blogger put it out there recently, and I wrote the story when I responded to it. That's how that happened. Pure will. And that's kind of what happened with Strands for Trans in our agency, right? A couple of people come up with the idea. They knock on our door. We say, fuck, that's great. Go make that happen. And then they go make it happen. And we help. We pay. We do what we need to do. We call in favors. It's not like we just go, you guys go do it. But they knock down the damn door to make it happen.
It's so nice.
That is the difference between a person who is going to thrive and a person who's going to be meh in our industry. Must make it happen. And by the way, on this puppet thing, I sent out a brief, very clear brief to 6 people and said, I want to see ideas in the next 2 days. A strategist came to see me 10 minutes later, and he had the puppet idea. Then went to these people and said, make this happen. And they did. And I was looking at work all day, all night. It was very tough. We had to make sure our tone was appropriate and not going over a line, whatever that may be. And it was very important to me that it be right, because it's my name on the door, and this is a big damn deal, right? We're going against WPP, but they made it happen. And so I think for a young talent, when I think of the best advice I have is network, get to know all the people, go up to all the creative directors and say, hi, I'd like to help. What can I help on? What jobs do you have? And just make friends, offer help, never say no. Don't say no. Bad. Say yes. Be the person that says yes, so that the creative directors always want to say, hey, you want to help with this? You want to help with that? And then have the drive and the stamina to make it happen, and then stay resourceful and relentless at when challenges come your way.
I love it. And it's something as a small business owner now, I'll get a bunch of thoughts, and people identify problems with no solutions. And I don't love that. I know that everything that you thought about what I could do, probably I've thought of, and I know these are blatant problems, but what's the solution? How can you, and then from that, if you have a solution, then go, as you said, help us out. So I love that. That drive helps. Right?
Yeah. We don't need problem people. I want to hear the problem, by the way, because I appreciate knowing, but I really appreciate a solution.
Right. Or even if you framed it this way, I've noticed this is an issue. I don't have the solution just yet. Just know I'm working on it.
Yeah, that would be great.
And I'm going to, spend some time. I'm going to do a little extra to help you out with this. And I'll get back to you with something clear, tangible, next steps, and I'll act on those. That's just the dream.
Isn't it? But you know what's weird? We've had some people work for us, so Liz Taylor, who's the global CCO at Ogilvy, she started out with us. We hired her out of school.
That's incredible.
We knew when she was right out of school that she was that. I mean,
really? What were those identifiers? Because these intangibles that we're talking about?
The positive attitude, really positive attitude, incredible talent, right? You got to have incredible talent, incredible intelligence, warmth, and friendliness to everyone, smart enough to know that you've got to get to know everyone and make yourself accessible. Those are, and they're rare. And Jill Applebaum is another person. we hired, and now she's a CCO. Like a lot of our people that we've hired and their first jobs have gone on, and you see it at the beginning. And when you see it, it's like, oh, it's such a wonderful thing to see that talent in people. It is a combination of talent, intelligence, and passion, and somebody that seems to be like, why do creative directors always want to go to that person? Why is that? You want to be that person. You want to be that person because you're always like, oh my God, Todd's the creative director at our place. That sounds amazing. Yeah, let me do that. And then you write 10 things when you could have written 2. And then you come back the next day and you come back the next day and you're like, Todd's like, suddenly you've become essential to Todd, right? Which is what you want to be. So it is that attitude.
I love it. Sandy, we talked a lot. We have a really good story, advice, and I love, that the Hall of Fame example you put in there as well. How can people reach out to you? Let's say it's an aspiring advertising professional that just wants to get to talk with you or somebody on the team. What's the best way for them to reach out?
I would say email me at Sandy, Sandy, at terrisandy.com.
Oh, that's so nice. Thank you for offering that up. I hope people capitalize on that. They shouldn't be intimidated. If they want to talk with me first to look through their book or anything like that, I'm happy to help as well and kind of vet and pre-prep with them because, we want to help them out. And then how can clients potentially, if they want to work with you, how can they reach out? Same way?
Same thing.
Oh, yeah. Big time.
Yep.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you wish you said or want to get out there to our listeners that are trying to break into this industry for the first time?
I think, here's an interesting thing, Gino, and I don't know if you found this. I am hearing that a lot of young people that are coming into the business today don't know ads. I know that seems weird. It seems impossible. How are these people that some go to ad school or some they come to our agency, they don't watch ads. So our people are, sort of saying, obviously read CA, communication arts, read the One Show book, read all the classics in advertising, know the business, know what we do, know who the greats are. You know how many times I say names from the past, Tom McGilligan, Lee Cloud, blah, blah, blah. People don't know who they are.
It is, and you know why? I think, well, one, ads, you can skip ads so easily, but also I've heard this show a lot of times people say, study things outside of advertising, go out in culture. That's, of course, yes, you need to do that. Go experience things, become a human and indulge and take in, but you also need to build a repertoire. The arsenal of the classic ads, what has won, and also be able to be, a history lesson and get the fundamentals, the straight headline, the twisted image, mix it up. And they don't know that. I think, well, they need to be reminded of that. Like, have taste, know your favorite ads, why, which campaigns resonate with you. And then you can actually go network with those creative directors and get a job with them. There's very few people that I talk to that are obsessed with ads. For the creatives out there, everybody should be obsessed with studying and consuming these.
I couldn't agree more. And you want to be able to say, oh my God, that great campaign for Porsche, or that great campaign for Saab, or that great campaign for so many brands, and be a student, right? Be a student of your business.
Yeah. I think there was a quote from Mike Tyson. He listed out like every major heavyweight champion, since it started in the 1900s. He studied all of them. There's a really good clip. I hope somebody can find that. And we should be doing that too. So when you say those names, you should get excited and know the ads too that they've made and be able to reference them.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, Sandy, thank you so much. I hope people reach out. It was a great conversation. Amazing stuff. I'm looking forward to seeing more from the agency.
Thank you so much, Gino.
Of course. Take care.
You too.